The Committee on Regulatory Reform will now come to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Carter,
Present.
Representatives Liberati, Neely, Scott,
Present.
Young,
Here.
Grant,
Here.
McFall,
Here.
Snyder, Wilson, Mueller,
Here.
Filler,
Yes.
Wenzel, Aragona, Beerline, Nayer. Mr. Chair, you have 9 present. You have a quorum.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, how many people, do we have people online?
Just the guy from Gaming Control. No members, though.
Oh, we're good. Thank you. Rep. Young moves to adopt the minutes from the January 31st, 2023. Seeing no objections, the minutes are adopted. Next, we need a motion to refer House Bill 4030 from this committee to House Health Policy Committee. The intent is to refer the bill and then take the vote.
So moved.
Rep. Scott moves then refers House Bill 4030 to the House Health Policy. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Chair Carter,
Yes.
Representative Liberati,
Yes.
Neely, Scott.
Yes.
That was a pass.
That was a yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
McFall,
Yes.
Snyder, Wilson,
Yes.
Mueller,
Yes.
Filler,
Yes.
Wenzel, Aragona, Beerline, Nayer. Mr. Chair, you have 9 yeas. The House Bill 4030 is referred to the Committee on Health Policy.
Thank you. Next, we welcome Director Henry Williams. I think he's on Zoom, and Jasmine Tompkins from the Michigan Gaming Control Board to give a presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. Sorry, my apologies for not being there in person with you today, a little under the weather, but thought it was very important for me to be here to discuss the Michigan Gaming Control Board with you today. In the gallery, you have my able Director of Legislative and External Affairs, Jasmine Tompkins. We have a brief presentation for you this morning, and we are available to answer any questions for you at the conclusion of the presentation. So thank you again for having us today.
All right, and I just want to take a second to introduce Heather, who's helping me out today, too. Okay, so first we'll start with the gaming acts that we regulate, just all the laws that we've taken over time. So in 1997, we started with the Michigan Gaming Control and Revenue Act. So that helps us regulate the Detroit land-based commercial casinos and the retail sports betting. In 2002, we took on the oversight of the auditing the land-based tribal casinos, audit only, because you know they're sovereign. In 2010, we took over the administration and regulation of the horse racing law. And then in 2012, we took over the Millionaire Party charitable gaming regulation. And then, of course, in 2019, we started all of our new gaming. So that's the lawful internet gaming, the lawful internet sports betting, and the Fantasy Contest and Consumer Protection Act. Over here, you'll see just a little bit of all the facilities we have in Michigan. So we have 3 of the commercial casinos, which, of course, are in Detroit, our 23 tribal casinos, and then we have 1 last horse track in the state. Of all those acts, we are responsible for the licensing of all of our operators, the enforcement of all of our laws, rules, and acts, the auditing of tax payments and purchases and operations, and we have our own gaming lab, and then also the responsible gaming database. Over here, I just show you a little bit about our MGCB structure. So we have our 5-member board, our executive director, who you've heard from, who's appointed by the governor, his executive team, and then our 4 divisions that we'll cover today. So that's the administration division, the casino operations division, licensing and investigations, and online gaming division. Our admin division handles most of our staff needs, so they handle our operational needs and support services to all 6 of our MGCB locations. We have our headquarters in the Cadillac Place in Detroit, 1 in Lansing up here, 1 in each commercial casino, and then 1 office at the racetrack. Our licensing and investigations division conducts the licensing of our commercial casinos, our iGaming operators, and our internet sports betting operators. This division also houses our commercial investigation sections. So that section intakes the tips for any illegal gaming and investigates all those reported locations. This division also is responsible for regulating millionaire parties. So when you think of charitable millionaire parties, you want to think like your Vegas-style charity games that charities host. They do that. They license and regulate and attend those events. In 2022, we had 1,034 charities. We issued a little over 1,300 licenses and had a little over 5,200 millionaire party event days. The numbers are different just because each license comes with 1 to 4 days of events. And so you'll see the net profit to charities was $2.2 million. Our casino operations division is responsible for ensuring the enforcement of all those acts that I mentioned earlier and all of our administrative rules that goes with those acts for the 3 commercial casinos. They process the occupational licenses for the employees in all the casinos, because I'm sure you all know every employee in there is licensed. And then they are also responsible for running our gaming lab, where we test the gaming software on the market to make sure they're meeting the standards that the Act has in place. Our casino operations is also responsible for performing compliance and operation audits on the 3 commercial casinos, and they work with the administrative section to ensure the correct amount of state wagering taxes were received, which I know we all care about. They're also responsible for the responsible gaming section, so they help maintain the responsible gaming database and our disassociated persons list. Now, before 2020, the disassociated persons list was a lifetime ban. After the amendment that was passed in 2020, it is now a 5-year ban. So you can see here that there are a little over 4,100 individuals on the disassociated persons list. We received over time 1,200 applications seeking removal. We approved 1,063 of those requests. 54 of those have requested placement back on the DPL list, and 76 were denied. And then the remaining 7 are under review. So here we just see how much revenue each property, our 3 Detroit commercial properties, of course, have brought in for 2022. This is just slots, table games, and retail sports betting. And we show you the market share up there. Looking at the revenue and taxes received from slots and table games, we had $101.8 million to the school aid fund and then $155.6 million to the city of Detroit. From the retail sports betting, a little over $711,000 to the school aid fund and a little over $869,000 to the city of Detroit. All right, our online gaming and legal affairs division is where we house all the new stuff. So the lawful internet gaming is there, lawful internet sports betting, and then of course our Fantasy and Consumer Protection Act. So on this chart, we kind of just show you the breakdown of where all the money goes and who pays what to where. The important parts that we'll take you to is for iGaming section in 2022 to the state. They received $298.2 million, and the city of Detroit received $77.8 million. Of that portion to the state, $1.4 million went to the board for our cost for regulating and licensing everyone, $2 million for First Responders Fund, $500,000 to the Compulsive Gambling Fund, all these per the Act, and then $251.8 million to the School Aid Fund. Same chart for the lawful internet sports betting. You see $13.7 million to the state and $6.7 to the city. And then of that portion to the state, $1.4 million again for the board operations, and then $2 million for first responders, $500,000 to the compulsive gambling fund, which I'll mention before we get to questions that is run by DHHS, and then $8 million to the school aid fund. Our online gaming section also houses the regulation of the horse racing section. This does not include regulating the Ag Equine Fund, as that is under MDARD. And so you can see here between ADW, the money from iGaming, and the money from iSports, Ag Equine Fund received a little over $6.8 million in 2022. And we had, 61 race dates. We also do the tribal auditing. As I said earlier, they are a sovereign, all the tribes are sovereign, so we do not regulate the brick and mortar for in-person gaming. We do for their online presence. So we just do the auditing of all the finances for the tribal partners in the state. And then on the next slide, you can kind of see the breakdown of where all the money from each tribe went to. So they have 2% that goes to all the local governments, and you can see that amount right next to it for 2021. And then the various different percentages they should pay or they do pay to the state. And then the ones that are dashed are the ones who have not because of violation to their compact of some sort. 2022 data is still coming in, so that's why you only have 2021 data in front of you. All right, last thing they regulate is the fantasy contests and revenue there. So revenue from there was $16.8 million for 2022. We are still in the process of promulgating the rules for the fantasy contest. So as the law stated, the only operators we have right now are the ones that were operating before the law. Once we get the rules done, we can receive applications from new operators. And then I think this should be our last one. Oh, almost. All right, close to last slide is our legislative affairs section, so that's me. I basically just handle the review of legislation from you guys to the agency. We just wanted to put in a thank you here for last session when you all passed the Senate bills 1111 and 1112 to help us fund Millionaire Party with iGaming Fund instead of the lottery fund. All of charitable gaming, I'm sure, thanks you, because now they're much more sustainable. This year, we're focusing on the budget requests that we have. And then just a little peek into that, because at some point you will see it, a part of our external affairs is communication. This year, we are partnering with, we have contracted with King Media to do some more responsible gaming messaging, so that is different from what DHHS does, which they do that if you have a problem, call this number. We're more of bet responsibly, so that's what you'll see us do. And hopefully in the next week or so, you should see us at gas stations, billboards, and commercials. And then that's everything. Questions?
Was that the speed version?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your overview. I've got a couple questions.
Okay.
And now that online gaming has been operated for a few years, are there any issues that you're running into?
Yes, I would say what we're looking at right now
Voice
with
of God.
online gaming, of course, we have many
A little louder.
individuals. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
We're
We're adjusting that right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
That better? Okay, sorry about that. So issues that we're seeing right now are online. We're seeing more online companies offering gaming to citizens in the state that are not licensed through the Michigan Gaming Control Board. So we're working with our partners with the Michigan State Police and Attorney General Office to address these companies that has come into the market and are offering certain products to our citizens without a license. So right now we're taking a look at those and trying to determine the best way to shut those operations down.
Is there anything that we might need to do legislatively to revisit that, or are you comfortable with the conversations with the state police?
Right now, we're comfortable, but we may come to the legislature to ask for some law adjustments as it relates to online. It's a new entity, so we don't know what we don't know yet. So always want to leave that door open to come back to you all to ask for your assistance.
You'll be the first to know when we have ideas.
All right. And to follow up with that, last year it was reported that online gaming spiked the number of calls to Michigan Problem Gaming Helpline. Do you have any current statistics on how many calls the helpline receives each year? And are there any additional steps the state could do or should do to address this this issue, this emerging problem? With new issues come new problems. So have we looked at that?
We are currently
Absolutely.
doing, go ahead, Henry.
No, go ahead, Jasmine.
I said we are currently doing monthly meetings with DHHS and Lottery to talk about this very issue. At first, some of the numbers were just our folks calling in to figure out how they can get help with like account stuff and whatnot. So we worked that out and got them to the right place. But right now, we're looking at how funding can be used and whether or not they need more.
And Jasmine also mentioned during the presentation the responsible gaming messaging campaign that's hopefully to launch later this month. And so hopefully the Don't Regret the Bet campaign will direct citizens to resources, give them tips they can use before they go out and game, time limits they can place on their online accounts. They can use that. They can sign themselves out online from individual platforms as well. They can also come to the Michigan Gaming Control Board and sign themselves off all 15 platforms. So there's other options for citizens out there, and we hope that the Don't Regret the Bet campaign will help steer them to resources.
All right, thank you. I think that Member Scott has a question.
You mentioned that there was a slight decrease in revenue from slots and table games and also retail sports or betting. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think right now we're just returning. Of course, the casinos are rebuilding from the pandemic. And I think as we would really like to see this fiscal year, 2023, and see where the numbers are. But each month, gradually, the casinos are returning. There are some issues with staffing at the properties, getting employees back to work. So I think if there's any type of decrease right now, is for that reason. We don't think it's because of the online gaming piece, but we'll know better at the end of this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, members?
Chair Carter, we didn't answer the second part, but we will get you current stats and I'll send them to your office for the hotline number.
Okay, great. I just have one other question about the millionaire parties.
Okay.
What's the qualifications? I'm a thousandaire. How do you have a millionaire party?
You do have to be a charity, so you can talk to them about an invite, though.
Okay. And must the entire amount of the monies raised go toward the charity?
Yeah, they pay their, I don't know how you call them. What do you call the people that help them out, Henry?
Oh, the suppliers.
Yes, they pay a portion to their suppliers, but the majority does go to the charities.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Up next, we have a presentation by the Michigan Beer and Wine Wholesalers. Welcome, Brett White. Is it Wisner? Visner. There we go. And Spencer Nevins. Thank you for being here this morning. I'm brand new.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for the opportunity to come before your committee today. My name is Brett Visner. I'm the Vice President of Public Affairs for the Michigan Beer and Wine Wholesalers Association. It's my pleasure to come here before you today and talk about a few of my favorite things, beer and wine distributors, and Michigan's tried and true three-tier system of alcohol distribution. So, starting with our members. So we are the trade association. The Michigan Beer and Wine Wholesalers Association represents 49 of Michigan's beer and wine distributors across the state, from the western UP to southeast Michigan and everywhere in between. Our members serve their communities by delivering beer and wine and selling those products to retailers. These are multi-generational, family-owned, independent companies that have been a part of the communities for forever. So they're very, very ingrained in the community. Do a lot beyond just selling beer and wine, though that's obviously a big part of what they do. As far as what our distributor members do on a daily basis, we have 19,000 retailers across the state. So when I talk about retailers, I'm talking about bars, restaurants, convenience stores, gas stations, grocery stores, big box stores. So all of the locations where you and your constituents can purchase beer and wine, they're all serviced by our members. And it's more than just delivery, stocking trucks and delivering beer and wine to these locations. Our members play a crucial role in building these brands. They purchase product obviously from breweries and wineries and build these brands, market them, promote them, deliver them, and then when they go into the retail accounts, they don't just drop them off at the dock. They're stocking shelves, they're rotating brands, they're building displays. So there's a lot of value that they provide to their brewery and winery partners as far as building equity in those brands. And additionally, the value added that they provide to the retailers for all those merchandising services, building displays, promotions, and all those things. The signs that you see in all of the stores, the beer, wine signs in those retail accounts, by and large, those are produced by our distributor members. So there's a lot more to it than just delivering beer and wine. And while they're doing this, they're providing great jobs, great careers for all their employees. Our members proudly employ over 5,000 people in this state, and these are good jobs, full benefits, averaging over $60,000 a year. So these are careers. These are opportunities for people to start, whether they're in the warehouse, a driver, sales, whatever the case may be, to build a career working for our family, independent-owned distribution companies. And we see employees working for many, many years that have deep roots with their companies, and it's really a great place to work, and these distributors take good care of their people. You know, we've got examples of truck drivers that are making, six figures as truck drivers, and these are drivers that get to come home at the end of the day to see their family. They're not over-the-road drivers that are gone for weeks at a time. These are really good jobs, warehouse jobs, driving jobs, sales jobs. It's really, we're very proud of what our members do as far as how they employ people and how good they take care of them. And not just what they're doing within the industry, but indirect and direct economic impact. So based on calculations through our national associations, it's about a $3 billion impact, like I said, indirect and non-direct, or indirect and direct as far as economic impact that beer and wine distributors provide to the state. So it's a huge part of our economy in Michigan, and we're very proud of that. And it's not just that, it's also the charity. It's also taking care of local parks. As I said, our members are multi-generational family businesses. They've been involved in their communities. Our members now, their parents, their grandparents, they've all been involved. They're deeply rooted in the community, and they give back, both financially and through their time. And it's something that we're very proud of. Through the pandemic, whether it was hand sanitizer or some of the communities that have dealt with water issues, providing water, they're on the forefront, they're on the ground, they're part of the community, and they're helping, and they're making a difference. And they're doing it in their pocketbook, and they're doing it with their people and being present. So we're really proud of what they do as far as being a part of the community as well. All right, so now on to a little bit about what our system is and how it operates. So many of you are familiar with the three-tier system of alcohol distribution, but it's more than just a flow chart. It's not simply the supplier tier, the distribution tier, and the retail tier. What it really is fundamentally is you've got, obviously, that supply chain. You've got the supplier tier, which is basically your wineries and your breweries that sell alcohol to the distribution tier, my members, the beer and wine distributors, who then sell it to retailers. They must all be completely separate, independently owned, and no cross-tier ownership or indirect or direct interest. So they have to be separate. They have to be independent. And why this is so important and why it's so effective in creating a healthy market is it prevents vertical monopolies. So you don't have a situation where you have large multinational breweries, wineries, suppliers controlling distribution, controlling retail. Because when that happens, what you have is a closed market, and you have absolutely no ability for market penetration from especially smaller breweries and wineries. So the system prevents control of the market by large companies, quite frankly. It ensures independence, and our distributors play a critical role in making sure the access to market piece, right? Because the suppliers can't control distribution, that means that your smaller, independent wineries and breweries have access to market. So it's a tremendous benefit, and quite frankly, creates a flourishing competitive market. The other thing that it does beyond just creating a level playing field and access to market for everybody is efficiency and transparency. So by having a regulated market with 3 distinct tiers, it ensures that taxes, for example, all of the excise taxes are collected by distributors and remitted to the state for all product that flows in from out of the state. In-state manufacturers have the option to pay themselves or through the distributor, but it ensures those taxes are paid because every entity that's remitting taxes is located in this state and licensed by this state. So that ensures that taxes are being paid, and distributors, the vast majority of the taxes are paid through licensed distributors. The other piece of it is safety. So because of this system and because of the chain of custody and the license structure, the Liquor Control Commission and our members, distributor members, know exactly where each and every product is at any given time. So when a case of beer or a case of wine is sold to a retailer, they know where it is. And if there's ever an issue, a recall, for example, our distributors know where it is and how to get it out. And I'll just give you an example. This summer, I was at a meeting with some members. It was a Sunday afternoon, and they had received word from a supplier that they were initiating a product withdrawal. It wasn't a recall, a safety issue, but it was a taste issue, a product quality issue. So they were ordering the distributors to remove all the product and destroy the product. That product was removed from every retail account in a matter of days. It's really unprecedented for an industry to be able to carry out a removal of that scale that quickly. And they're able to do that, one, because the system allows for it, because all of that product, the chain of custody, is traceable, and two, our members are pretty darn good at what they do. But it's really something that I do like to tout because most consumer products, I just got a notice from Amazon this week on a product recall from something that I purchased, I think it was 5 years ago, that may or may not be subject to a recall. So it's really pretty unique what our members can do to carry out those, or if it is a recall, if it is a safety issue, they can act very quickly in the interest of public health and safety. And like I said before, it's all about creating a level playing field. By having an independent distribution tier, small breweries and wineries have access to market. The large multinational suppliers, breweries and wineries, can't keep them out. And the numbers show it. We have close to 400 breweries in the state of Michigan, ranking us 6th in the nation. So we've got a very successful market here in Michigan, and we're proud to partner with our Michigan local breweries and wineries. And the other part of it is the retail tier. So we've got small independent retailers, we've got convenience stores, gas stations, big box stores. And the way the system is structured, the 3-tier system, it really allows our small local independent retailers to compete on a level playing field. You know, as an example, under our regulatory structure, the price for beer and wine that a small mom and pop store in your community might pay for from a distributor is the same that they would pay for, or the same price that a large big box retailer pays. So it really allows the smaller retailers to compete as well. So just a little bit of an illustration of what I've been talking about. You know, as I said, our regulatory structure allows for competition, access to market, and choice for the consumer. So if you look at the picture on the left, the beer aisle, you'll see some local brands that you probably recognize. You'll see some regional brands that you recognize, some national brands, international brands, everything under the sun. It's on your store shelf. It's on the tap handles at your bars and restaurants. It is an incredibly competitive market. Thousands of brands are fighting for that shelf space. And what you see is an incredible amount of diversity and product availability for the consumers. And distributors are very proud to provide that to their retail customers and work with their local, with all of their brewery and winery partners to get that product to market. And not singling out soft drink, but it is a beverage. You know, the same would go for any other consumer product, you know, the chip aisle or the snack food aisle. There just isn't the same level of diversity as far as product options for consumers. It just doesn't exist. It's a different type of market. And we're really proud of our three-tier system and what it does for the diversity of the market, the options and the choices and the competition and the safety for Michigan consumers. Not picking on soft drink, but it's just an illustration of the difference to see what our system results in for beer and wine. So like I said, when I talk about the three-tier system, I'm not just talking about a flow chart of supplier, distributor, retailer. There's components beyond just the separation, critical components, specific laws that make up that three-tier system that are very important to beer and wine distributors and to our three-tier regulatory structure. So I just want to touch on those a little bit and give you a little bit of background for those that aren't aware. Beer and wine franchise laws. This is something that you may or may have heard of. Simple concept. It requires that a supplier, a brewery or winery, if they want to terminate a distributor, they have to show just cause and provide due process before they terminate. Why is that important? Well, it's important because distributors spend an incredible amount of equity building brands with their supplier partners. And by having this law in place, it prevents a situation where a supplier could come into a distributor and say, hey, I really appreciate the millions and millions of dollars that you've invested in our brand working together, but you know what, we're going to go in a different direction. You know, and that could be 80% of their book of business. It could be devastating for their business. What it's also important for, because of that, is because it fosters the independence that distributors have. By having that ability to protect their equity in those brands they invest in, they can pick up smaller brands without fear of repercussions with their larger suppliers. To that end, just a brief story before my time, but before franchise laws, we had a distributor member that their largest supplier was in town for a meeting. This is going back, franchise laws, we're talking early 80s. Their largest supplier probably equated to 90% of their total volume, was in for a meeting, walking around the warehouse. They had picked up a new brand. I believe it was Labatt's, if memory serves me. And the brewer said, oh, that's really interesting. I see you decided to pick up Labatt's and you're selling Labatt's. They said, yeah, you know, it's a new product for us. It's going pretty well. And the supplier said, well, at the end of the day, you're going to either be distributing my beer or you're going to be distributing Labatt's. You pick. They dumped out all of the Labatt's beer in their warehouse that afternoon down the drain. So that was what would happen before franchise laws. And that, as you can imagine, had a chilling effect on distributors' willingness to pick up small, independent breweries and wineries. And incidentally, if you look at across the country when franchise laws were implemented, 80s, 90s, it tracks with the growth of small, independent brewers. So it's effective not only for protecting distributors' equity, it also, we believe, has really given an opportunity to small brewers to get access to market and protect distributors to allow them to do that as well. Aid and assistance. So basically what aid and assistance is, it says a distributor and supplier, so breweries, wineries, and distributors cannot give money or give things of value to retailers in exchange for something. So, right, so, you know, if you can't own distribution like the three-tier system prevents, this also prevents purchasing, placement, or tap handles, or things of that nature, buying access to market. So in other industries, you'll have instances where shelf space is purchased, or not tap handles, but placement in a restaurant for soda is purchased, basically allowing the larger producers an unfair economic advantage to gain access to market. We don't have that in beer and wine. You can't pay for shelf space in a retail account, a distributor, or a supplier. You can't pay for tap handles. You can't pay for access to market. So that's critically important to maintain a level playing field, and it prevents the large suppliers from dominating the market. But it does happen. I'm sure all of you have come across a situation where, you know, one of your favorite items was not available because they offer the competition but not the other brand. But if you go into a bar or restaurant, all those products are available. Territorial integrity. So basically that ensures a transparent and accountable supply chain. So what I'm talking about there is if you're in a given area, so Mr. Chairman, in Detroit, If there's an issue like I talked about a recall. So if there's a Molson Coors recall, the commission, you all would know that Easttown Beverages is the company that you need to talk to about fixing that. If it's an Anheuser-Busch product, you would talk to the Fabiano brothers. And for High Noon, it would be Great Lakes Wine and Spirits. So that allows to ensure tax collection, number one, recalls, and also bottle bill. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in a moment, but distributors are responsible for implementing the bottle bill. By having that law in place, taxes are collected, the safety of the product and the product integrity is ensured, and there's always someone to go to if there's a problem, not only in a recall, but also I bring up Easttown as an example. They were able to identify that product was flowing into their market from somebody that, come to find out, was selling product off the back of a truck and moving around. And they were able to identify it and brought it to the attention of the Liquor Control Commission, and that illegal activity through work with the state police is being investigated. So it's a really important structure. And the last item on it is cash law. So cash law basically means that transactions between distributors and retailers is cash on delivery. So there can't be credit terms. And that's designed to prevent economic leverage or a creditor-debtor relationship where there's undue pressure on an entity, which results in bad activity, whether it's selling to underage individuals or otherwise. Technical difficulties here. No problem. Thanks. All right, like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about Michigan's bottle bill. So some of you that have been around are aware that Michigan distributors, both beer and wine and soft drink, all distributors of beverages that are subject to the bottle deposit law, are really responsible for all the behind-the-scenes work that is associated with the bottle bill. It comes full circle with distributors. The initiation of the deposit is done by distributors when they sell those products to retailers. When a consumer returns those products for the dime to the retailer, the distributor is responsible for picking up those containers, processing those containers, transporting those containers, and recycling those containers. So really everything that goes on behind the scenes, like I said, is done by the distributors. It's a big job, it's a dirty job, it's a messy job, and it's an expensive job. We did an analysis of it a few years back, and it equated to $60 million a year for distributors to carry out this work on behalf of the state. It's certainly gone up now over the last few years, like many other things have. So it's a big expense. Originally, when the bottle bill was initiated by the people back in the late 70s, the unclaimed deposits, which are those dimes that aren't returned for containers that are not returned, were utilized by distributors to build out the infrastructure for the bottle bill. So they were reinvested in the system, which worked. Subsequently, the legislature determined to divert those funds to another source, unfortunately. But again, in the 2000s, there was another action by the legislature to implement the green credit, which was associated with the Michigan business tax that did reimburse and reinvest in the system through a tax credit that was available to distributors. As you all know, the Michigan business tax was eliminated in 2011, and along with it went the green credit. So since that time, there hasn't been a reinvestment as far as through distributors for the bottle bill. This is something that, for those of you that are returning members, have heard us talk about. We think it's important for a reinvestment in the system. Many of you have supported legislation last session to that end. Unfortunately, it didn't cross the finish line, but that's something that we'll be talking to folks about again this term, and we appreciate all of those folks that supported that effort last session. All right, so on the horizon, so one of the things that the association attempts to do, and our members are very good at, is looking forward and trying to anticipate issues that may arise, whether in the market or legislatively. One of those is the entrance of non-alcoholic entities entering the beverage alcohol market space. There's several different examples of this. And what we're seeing is an attempt to distribute and sell these products in a manner inconsistent with the traditional three-tier system. Many of you that were here last session supported an effort to clarify, to ensure that any sort of distribution of these types of products would flow through the tried and true three-tier system, which we thank you for your support of that, because I think what we're starting to see in other states is that was a smart move. As examples, in other states, the picture on the screen, I don't know if you can see, that's a hard Mountain Dew product that's being that's shelved right next to Hot Wheels toy cars. We're also seeing in other states, we've got tons of examples of hard Mountain Dew being on the shelves right next to regular Mountain Dew, literally right next to it. Virginia, it became such a problem in Virginia that their legislature just passed legislation prohibiting the placement of these products next to each other. So it's a real issue we're seeing with other states. So we just want to bring it to your attention and thank those of you that supported the legislation to make sure that sort of stuff doesn't happen here in Michigan. But we've heard rumblings that there may be an effort to revisit those things. So we just want to bring that to your attention and say that the three-tier system works. These products can flow through the traditional three-tier system without the sort of stuff that you're seeing on that slide. And if those folks that are selling these sorts of products want to enter the market, the system is open and available to them. Okay, so the next slide, a maturing beer market. What these, and I know it's pretty small, so I apologize. On your left, what that graph shows is basically total alcohol consumption for roughly the past 20 years. The yellow is beer, the gray is spirits, the red is wine, and the green on the top is cider. So really you're seeing a few things. Total consumption is slightly increasing, pretty flat. A little bit of a spike in 2020 and 2021, maybe related to the pandemic, but generally flat to slight growth of total alcohol consumption. The yellow beer, slight decline, a slow decline. And there's been a lot of change in the beer market over that time, a big increase in smaller independent breweries, capturing market share from larger breweries, but overall, it's been a decline. Spirits, the gray, has been where there's been growth. Wine, slight increase. So really kind of the takeaways from that is alcohol, people are drinking about the same, and beer's going down. On the other side, we see the number of brewery approvals. TTB is the federal agency that approves breweries. That goes back 20 years. So what you see there is roughly about 2,000 breweries, equating to the other portion of the slide. And fast forward to today, and you've got 14,000. So a massive increase in the number of breweries, and it's exploded about 5 years ago. So what I see when I see that is less people are drinking beer, but there's more and more and more and more breweries. So what our concern is that there very well could be a correction, and there's going to be some distress on some breweries because of those economic factors. And our concern is if under that sort of duress, there are what we would consider bad ideas to address those situations. We've heard rumors of different things, franchise law changes, direct-to-consumer sales of beer, selling beer in a brewery that brewer didn't even make, things that we see as direct attacks on the three-tier system and misguided. So we just want to bring those to your attention. We're hearing those rumors. And we think there's opportunities for distributors to work with our brewery and winery partners and retailers to address some of these problems. I mean, you know, certainly the pandemic created a lot of issues for a lot of people. Bars and restaurants being hit severely hard. And a lot of independent bars and restaurants are still struggling. We see it from our business standpoint. Draft has not rebounded fully since that time. So there's opportunities to work together in light of some of the challenges that we're facing, but we just are concerned that there may be some that explore efforts to tear down the three-tier system, which is of concern to us. So we want to get that on everybody's radar screen, and we want to be a resource for you all should you have questions as you're looking at different legislation or different ideas that come across your desk. And the other item that we have concern about, that we've heard about, is cross-tier licensing. You know, we've heard rumors about folks wanting to, you know, have a supplier license and also obtain a retail license, which we think is, again, counter to the three-tier system and certainly something that we would be concerned about. So not to end on a foreboding note, but we just want to make sure that you all are aware of those issues, and we want to be, like I said, be a resource. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that information, that overview, for some not familiar with the three-tier system. So I have a couple questions. How many states use this system, three-tier?
So the vast majority of the states in the union use the system, but everyone's very different. So under the U.S. Constitution, each individual state has the right to create their beverage alcohol market, and all have done so. So the vast majority do have some sort of you know, a variation of the three-tier system, but we think Michigan has the gold standard for three-tier systems across the state, or across the country, excuse me.
Okay. What are some of your major priorities? I know this, the bottle returns. We need to address that, and I know personally, having met with Easttown distributors during COVID, they would deliver product and they wouldn't get any returns. So we have to you know, look at that as well. And I'll have my other colleagues, if they have any questions. You answered pretty much mine. We said the impact of alcohol sales during the pandemic. But I also noticed more people are drinking White Claw or this other stuff. But, you know, maybe that's the reason. So if anybody else has any questions. No questions? He did that great of a job.
He was very thorough.
Very thorough. Well, thank you so much, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity.
Have a motion from Member Mueller to excuse any absent members. With that, there being no further business before the committee will stand adjourned.